The Constitution itself is a social justice document. Social justice is not part of the Constitution. Constitution itself is a social justice document. And that's why we want to congregate year after year to be part of living with the Constitution. And this living with the Constitution means it commit to each and every value that enthuse not only what the Constitution does today, but what made our freedoms possible. We live in freedom today because hundreds and hundreds of people laid their blood and sweat and toil, lost their liberties. And therefore, when you say living with the Constitution means we pay a great homage to those long line of people who made it possible for us to live in freedom.
If the Chief Justice of India is made weak and vulnerable, it is also amounting to weakening of the Supreme Court itself. If the Supreme Court of India becomes weak, it amounts to weakening of the Indian judiciary. Interactions with my counterparts if you talk about England, which is same pattern of law we follow, the common laws, I had 3 discussions with 3 different justice ministers. We planned out to have another dialogue, and next time I found the minister is changed. So here, the stability in which the people of India has been entrusting the responsibility to the government is also a matter for rest of the countries, rest of the world to understand and see that India is truly a thriving democracy. We must not undermine the power of the people. The power of the people is the ultimate power. The sovereignty lies with the people of India, and we have to stand by that. We draw our inspiration, our authority, and all our guidance from the Constitution of India. So on this very important, auspicious occasion, I once again commit myself to abide by the spirit of the Constitution in true sense.
Constitution as we see it today is very different from the Constitution which even the framers of our Constitution imagined it would be. And I dare say, long after we have laid down our jobs and our lives, the Constitution will be very different from what we imagine it is going to be today, because the Constitution is constantly evolving to meet the new social realities of the time. In this mission of providing justice to our common citizens, we stand together. As judges, we come and occupy these offices for the term that the Constitution gives us. But never do we as judges ever believe that we stand apart from the bar. And never does the bar believe that it stands apart from the citizens. So though we have a discipline of our own in the law, our law has its own logic, sometimes which is not understandable to citizens. Though sometimes the phrases which we use in our judgments may not be found in dictionaries. Yet, in this mission we stand together as members of the bar and the bench. And it is that hope, it is that mission which I bring to you on my first Constitution Day since my assumption of office. Constitution is not just a legal document. It has a social dimension. It has a political dimension. Therefore, the understanding of law cannot be divorced from social reality. We must acknowledge that law in the past has also worked as a source of oppression. For instance, the Criminal Tribes Act criminalized millions of tribes whom we know now as denotified tribes. The social law of the time treated millions as untouchables. When we celebrate the Constitution every year, we must be conscious of the histories prior to the adoption of the Constitution. Therefore, the values of our Constitution must be understood and evolved in the sense that the law no longer acts as an instrument of oppression. And it is tasked to every young member of the bar, every senior member of the bar, and every judge to ensure that the law becomes a source of justice and not a law which becomes a source of injustice. Constitution, we must now shed away the legacy of colonial thought and culture within the legal system. We have to make our legal system truly adapt to the local needs, demands and aspirations of our citizens, including in the language which we use. As they say that practice begins at home, the legal profession must shed away its colonial underpinnings. In a country like India, where summers include extreme heat waves as a result of climate change, we must reconsider the strict dress code for our lawyers, particularly in the summer. I am not saying that our dress code should be done away with completely. Of course, there is a decorum of the court, but I am just floating the idea of making our dress more compatible with our life, our weather and our times, so that there is a meaningful discussion on this. In particular, the strictness on attire should not lead to moral policing of women. Criticism about the collegium. I thought I had reserved the best for the last. No institution in democracy or in a constitutional democracy is perfect. But we work within the existing framework of the Constitution as it is interpreted and given to us. And all the judges of the collegium, including me, we are faithful soldiers who implement the Constitution. So much of the work of the collegium takes place when an agenda is circulated. But so much of the work of the collegium takes place much earlier and much thereafter. When we leave over a cup of coffee, when we share a thought over a cup of coffee. So you must also understand that there is something called a soft culture within the judiciary as well. And we as judges are not really here to only follow the letter of the law by following the processes of the collegium, but for the purpose of ensuring that the soft culture, that sense of constitutional statesmanship between the government and the Supreme Court continues to be in harmony to find the right balance in the selection of judges. We can't be constitutional statesmen if we are only at a point where we are finding fault with each other. We understand that we have a system, we have a constitution, and we need to work our way as constitutional statesmen to finding just conclusions.